There are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. John Adams. Now, replace nation with person, and think about it. How often do people set themselves on paths that lead to their downfall, not through force, but through choices that pile up over time, like small debts to their future selves? This video isn't about external enemies. It's about the hidden patterns, the subtle clues, and the universal traps that predict a person's downfall before it happens. What if you could spot these signs in yourself or even in others and change the trajectory before it's too late? Let's uncover the unseen dominoes that topple the tallest towers, one small step at a time. Have you ever noticed how some of history's most successful people meet their downfall not when they're struggling, but when they're at the top of their game? Take the story of Icarus from Greek mythology. Given wings to escape, he flew too close to the sun, ignoring the warning that the heat would melt the wax holding his wings together. The metaphor is clear. Success breeds confidence, but unchecked confidence leads to overreaching. Psychologists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's when people overestimate their abilities due to a lack of self-awareness. The more successful someone becomes, the harder it is for them to recognize the limits of their knowledge. Studies show that overconfidence is one of the most reliable predictors of failure, particularly in leadership roles. Think of companies like Blockbuster, which dismiss Netflix as a minor competitor, or individuals who stretch themselves too thin, believing they can juggle it all. Overconfidence blinds them to the risks until it's too late. Imagine a single raindrop. Harmless, right? Now, imagine 1,000 of them pooling into a puddle, a stream, and eventually a flood. This is how bad decisions work. Rarely does a single choice bring someone down. It's the accumulation of small, seemingly insignificant choices over time. A study by Duke University found that nearly 45% of our daily actions are habits, performed without conscious thought. Over time, these habits compound, positively or negatively. Skipping the gym today feels trivial, but skipping it consistently builds a pattern. Spending just $5 extra a day doesn't feel like much until you see the yearly total. This principle, called behavioral compounding, was famously illustrated by Warren Buffett. Just as money compounds, so do behaviors. Small, consistent missteps, procrastination, neglect, or avoidance, create a snowball effect that's hard to stop. Let's talk about feedback. In science, a feedback loop is when the output of a system amplifies or dampens its future behavior. Positive feedback loops can drive exponential growth or exponential decay. The downfall of leaders, businesses, and individuals often stems from ignoring critical feedback loops. Remember Enron? The energy giant's leaders ignored early warnings about their financial practices. Instead of adjusting, they doubled down, creating a positive feedback loop of destruction. On a personal level, ignoring feedback can look like avoiding constructive criticism, dismissing red flags in relationships, or neglecting physical warning signs like fatigue or pain. Feedback is often uncomfortable, but it's essential. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Why wait for long-term rewards when a shortcut offers quick wins? This mindset, however, is a classic trap. Economists refer to it as time inconsistency, the tendency to value immediate rewards more than future ones. For instance, consider athletes who take performance-enhancing drugs. The short-term benefit, improved performance. The long-term cost, health issues, bans, and reputational damage. Lance Armstrong's story is a textbook example. In psychology, this is often tied to the marshmallow experiment. Children were given a choice: one marshmallow now or two if they waited. Decades later, researchers found that the kids who waited generally achieved more success in life. It's worth asking, what marshmallows are you grabbing today at the expense of tomorrow? The more successful or ambitious people become, the more isolated they often feel. Why? Partly, it's self-imposed. Success creates a bubble where criticism is avoided, and only affirmations are allowed in. This isolation prevents honest self-reflection and blinds people to their own weaknesses. History is full of examples, from Julius Caesar to modern CEOs, where isolation created echo chambers. Without external reality checks, decisions become disconnected from reality. Sociologist Robert Putnam calls this social capital, the networks of relationships that provide support, accountability, and perspective. Lose that, and you lose your anchor to reality. Who in your life challenges your ideas and holds you accountable? If no one comes to mind, it might be time to seek those connections. Psychologist Carl Jung spoke about the shadow self, the part of ourselves we suppress or deny. Ironically, ignoring this shadow is often what leads to our downfall. Think of it as the iceberg effect. The visible tip is your conscious mind, your goals, values, and beliefs. But beneath the surface lies a massive, unseen portion: fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotions. When we ignore this shadow, it finds ways to sabotage us. This is why seemingly successful people can crumble under the weight of scandals, addictions, or burnout. They've ignored the parts of themselves screaming for attention. Carl Jung put it best: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. We often think of downfall as sudden, dramatic, and external, like a bolt of lightning. But more often, it's gradual, predictable, and internal. It starts with overconfidence, compounds with small choices, ignores feedback, chases short-term gains, isolates from reality, and suppresses the shadow self. The same principles that lead to a downfall can lead to growth. Awareness of these clues is the first step to rewriting the script. Your challenge is to reflect on your own life. Where are the hidden clues pointing you? Are you building your foundation or unknowingly pulling out the supports? As Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Now the question is, what will you do with this wisdom?